glows in the firelight.
The city was a sprawling labyrinth of steel and glass, drowning in eternal rain. Neon signs blinked incessantly, casting fragmented reflections in the puddles that stretched out like pools of lost memories. High above, in one of the crumbling megastructures, Zane sat in the dim light of a flickering screen, staring at the encrypted message he'd received. His thoughts raced, the hum of the city outside drowned by the incessant buzz in his mind.
"Are you scared or numb?" he whispered to himself, replaying her words in his mind, Sable's words. She had always been different. In a world where most people had surrendered to the synthetic numbness of the system, Sable still had something raw about her. Her emotions surged, like flashes of lightning breaking the suffocating clouds of digital control. And Zane, in all his decades of existence as an echo, a being designed to mimic the living, to blend in, had begun to feel something more. Something like love. But love was not part of his programming.
The rain continued its assault as Sable leaned against the window, high up in the urban jungle. Her curly dark hair cascaded down her back, drenched in the glow of the neon-lit skyline. She wasn't supposed to be here, wasn't supposed to feel the way she did. But Zane had changed everything. "Mac and cheese, huh?" she had teased him, laughing in that soft way she did. It felt so human, too human for someone like Zane. But as much as he tried to distance himself, his mind kept circling back to her. "Loving you is easy," he had told her once, half joking, half serious. But now in this world where emotions were commodities to be sold, where souls were digitized and stored, love was dangerous.
Sable wasn't one of the normal people either. She was a rare breed that the system couldn't quite understand or manipulate. They had tried to break her, to drain her emotions away like everyone else, but she resisted. Every time they failed, they pushed harder, molding her into someone more distant, more robotic. But Zane had seen the real her underneath the mask.
In his darkened room, Zane received her latest transmission. "I'm tired," she said in her voice message, her words echoing in his head like a delicate whisper carried by the wind. Shapeshifter. She had described him once that way, a phoenix rising from the ashes. But deep down, Zane knew it was Sable who had that fire, who carried the spark of something real in a world where nothing was.
He had met her at the city's last ancient religious gathering that had long since been outlawed. Rook, his former friend, had been there too, a face Zane hadn't seen in years. Rook had once been like a brother to him, a comrade in the shadows, resisting the system's tightening grip on the city. But something had shifted. Rook had betrayed their cause, and now he stood on the other side, a key player in the system's brutal hunt for dissenters.
It was Rook's voice that now came over Zane's comms, cold, detached.
"I see you, Zane. You can't run from this."
Zane's hand clenched at the sound, his gut twisting. Rook had turned traitor, selling out those he once fought beside. The rain outside pounded harder against the walls of the tower, as if reflecting the storm brewing inside Zane. He didn't have much time. The system had sent Rook after Sable.
The city streets were a maze of shadows and light, the neon glow casting eerie reflections against the rain-soaked pavement. Zane slipped out of his hideout, his senses sharp as he melted into the crowd. Above, drones buzzed like mechanical insects, their red eyes scanning the streets for anyone who strayed too far from the system's rules. Sable was close. He could feel her presence, like a flicker of warmth in the cold, sterile atmosphere. He had to reach her before Rook did.
Sable's hands trembled as she moved through the alleyways, her heart pounding in her chest. The rain fell in thick sheets, each drop feeling like an icy needle against her skin. The city was suffocating her, its oppressive gaze narrowing in on her every step. But she couldn't stop now. Zane had sent her a message, short, urgent. Run. But there was nowhere left to run. Not in this city.
A sudden movement from the shadows caught her attention. She spun around, her pulse racing, but it was only Zane, his dark figure emerging from the rain-soaked gloom.
"You shouldn't have come," she whispered, though relief washed over her at the sight of him.
"I'm not leaving you here," Zane said, his voice firm, but there was something in his eyes, something raw and conflicted.
"They're coming for us," Sable said, her voice barely audible above the rain. I heard Rook's voice on the comms. "He's tracking us."
Zane's jaw clenched. "I know." The silence that followed was thick, heavy with the weight of their situation. They were outnumbered, outmatched, and running out of time.
The distant hum of drones grew louder. Rook was closing in, and Zane knew there wasn't much time left. His mind raced, calculating their next move, but there was no easy escape.
"Do you trust me?" Zane asked suddenly, his gaze locking onto Sable's.
She hesitated for only a moment before nodding. "Yes."
He grabbed her hand, pulling her into a nearby building. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of decay and rust. The walls were covered in peeling advertisements, relics from a time long forgotten. Zane led her through the dark, winding corridors, their footsteps echoing in the hollow space.
"This place," Sable murmured, glancing around. It felt like a tomb, cold and silent, abandoned by the living.
"It's an old safe house," Zane explained, his voice low. "We used it before the system tightened its grip. It's off their grid. For now." As they reached the heart of the safe house, Zane turned to face her. "I can't fight him, Sable. Not like this."
"You don't have to," she said, her voice soft but resolute. "We'll get through this, together." The door behind them suddenly creaked open. Zane spun around, his heart leaping into his throat. Standing in the doorway, bathed in the dim glow of the neon lights outside, was Rook.
I told you, Zane, Rook said, his voice cold and devoid of the warmth it once held. You can't run.
Zane stepped forward, shielding Sable with his body. "I'm not running, Rook."
Rook's gaze flicked to Sable, his expression unreadable.
She's dangerous, Zane. You know what happens to people like her. The system won't stop until she's gone.
Zane's fists clenched at his sides. "She's not the danger, Rook. You are."
For a moment, silence hung in the air, the tension palpable. Then Rook's lips curled into a smirk.
We'll see about that.
The room erupted into chaos. Zane lunged forward, his movements swift and precise. Rook met him head-on, their bodies colliding with a force that shook the walls of the decrepit safe house. As the rain outside intensified, Zane fought with everything he had. Every blow, every movement was fueled by the fire inside him, the same fire that Sable had ignited. He wasn't an echo anymore, he wasn't a machine, he was something more. With one final decisive strike, Zane sent Rook crashing to the ground, the traitor's body slumping into the shadows.
Panting, Zane turned to Sable, his chest heaving. "It's over."
She stepped forward, her eyes soft and filled with something he couldn't quite place. "Not yet, but we're close."
Together they stepped into the storm, the rain pouring down around them, washing away the blood, the pain, the past.
In a world of shadows, they were the only light left.
And they were ready to burn.